1540 AM. Darren Smith with you again for another sports weekend. Joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend himself. They call him the sports director down in Tyler, Texas for KLTV ABC7, Michael Coleman. Michael, what's going on with you this weekend?
Well, we thawed out here in Texas. It was something. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And granted, I've been used to the weather, but what hurt us here was there's no snow plows here in Texas for the most part, where I'm at especially, and it sustained itself for a week. Last month it snowed. It was in and out in 2 days, and everything was what it was. But cancellations and the bad water and then the power, and it was kind of like we were on Gilligan's Island, man, without none of that stuff. So we're all up and running now. We're back to Texas weather. You can't even tell that we had the kind of weather we had last week. So we were moving on.
Now, and speaking of that, and we'll obviously jump into the sports in a second, because I was going to ask, reading reports, there's still a little bit over 1 million people in Texas that still having issues with their water. Is that correct?
Water and some with power. Now, my wife and I, we were without power consecutively for 28 hours and then another four. And we spent the night with some friends who didn't lose power, who didn't have any problem with the water. Water was fine. But I know a lot of frozen pipes and floods. And I mean, we were lucky. We were very, very lucky. And so it's one of those deals. I guess back in 2011, they went through the same thing when Dallas hosted the Super Bowl, and same thing happened, but nothing got improved upon, and so it's like, okay, how many times does this have to happen, Texans, for you to vote for somebody different in office? Because in West Texas, like in El Paso, they're on a different grid, and they didn't have any of the problems that was happening, west of them or east of them, and Jerry Jones was making a lot of money because he was the major shareholder of one of these electric companies. As one of his guys said, we hit the jackpot. So ERCOT, they're kind of the governing body of electricity in Texas. And the main reason why it's this way is because Texas did not want to have any regulations or be under the care or the monitor of the government because they wanted to do it their way. So, hey, the word loan in Star State means something. Alone, leave us alone. We're going to do it our way. And they hurt a lot of people in politics, Texas style.
Well, Michael, obviously this week the biggest, the big news was the car accident that took place earlier this week with Tiger Woods. He was involved in, I guess, a single car accident where his vehicle rolled over off the highway, suffered major leg injuries, compound fractures, and he has been, in the hospital he was in earlier this week. He's been transferred to Cedars Sinai Medical Center in L.A. And your thoughts on him? Of course, he was in the Harbor UCLA Medical Center, but your thoughts on this happening? According to police, he wasn't impaired at all. It wasn't any alcohol or anything like that involved. Just an accident that just happened. But your thoughts on what happened with Tiger Woods is he sustained an injury to his talus bone, which is obviously connects to the bottom of his lower leg to the top of the foot. So, your thoughts on what happened with Tiger Woods this week
Well,
and its impact in the sports world.
the wall-to-wall coverage. The wall-to-wall coverage of the accident reminds me when Kobe got killed. Wall-to-wall coverage.
Yeah.
So thank goodness that did not happen to Tiger. Um, as I told my viewers a few nights ago, let's pump the brakes on whether he'll play again or not. Let's see to it that he gets healed as a man and as a father to his kids. That's first and foremost, because he's going to give it a shot. That's just Tiger.
Yeah.
Ben Hogan, great golf champion from years ago, who was a Texas guy, had a horrific car accident. And he was able to bounce back. Now I don't know. I wasn't around then, obviously, but if there's somebody that could aspire to matching what Ben Hogan did, it would be Tiger. I did a sound. I did some sound with a local golf pro here recently. Because where he makes his living is his legs, the torque and all that kind of stuff. Um, I would like to see him step down. I'd like to see him retire, and we'll help Charlie work on his game. If Charlie wants to go through the same footsteps, he can emulate his own father. You
Yeah,
know, that's what I have to see. But I'm glad, all things considering, he's been blessed. And he's a tough guy. He's gone through a whole lot to be the stature that he is. And someone quoted a famous author who said something to the effect of, "Show me a hero, and I will show you tragedy in the making."
mm,
And that's the thing about Tiger. He's taking a blow after blow after blow to be in this is not even a team sport, just a lone man sport, and see how it's turned out. I do like the well wishes that have come from everywhere, um, because now for those who just looked at Tiger as just a golfer, he also built the business of golf.
yeah,
He increased the revenue for those on the tour. You got guys who've never won a golf tournament before, but they're millionaires 10 times over because the purse has increased because of Tiger's presence. And so um, I wish him well, and we'll see how this turns out for him. I think, though, he's in a good place. And I think we began to see Tiger warm up when he and his son played in that golf tournament a while back.
yeah,
You saw a human side of him that always existed, but he hardly ever put it on display publicly. And so when he had his son Charlie, he was hugging Charlie and, where'd it go, man? And Charlie was like, yo, slow down, Dad. I got this. And so that was kind of fun to see. And I think this is going to take him to another level of that situation.
And what's interesting, Mike, is that when the news came out, because it happened that morning, but we didn't hear about it till about 4 hours later.
Right.
Because I think just the day before he was playing golf with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade had posted some stuff on Instagram, and he was actually headed to meet up with the actor David Spade and quarterback Drew Brees. I think they were getting ready to film
Yeah.
a commercial or shoot some golf or something. So the fact that that ended up happening, and obviously, look, we've known that there's been two other times where Tiger Woods had car incidents. The one time I think he got pulled over because of Valium and he was drunk or something. I forgot what time of the day or night that was. And then the other time, of course, when he ran into a tree and had an incident with his wife, for philandering or whatever that he got caught doing. So, I mean, it's obviously a sad situation. And look, and last year I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but just the redemption that he had when he came back and won the majors. Yeah, I think won the Masters as a matter of fact. I
Three
think
years
that was
ago, yeah.
yeah, so to come back and to be able to do that because he had gone without winning for almost a decade, I believe,
Right.
when that took place.
Also, if you recall, you had the wall-to-wall coverage of him winning the Masters. I mean,
Yeah.
the well wishes we're hearing now were duplicate to what we heard 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now when he did it 2 years ago, like one, he was trending that weekend going into
Yeah.
the finals, and then winning. That was like one of the biggest news events in some time, just because of that moment. So, there's just so much that we that can be said about Tiger Woods again. He is. They are hopeful for a full and speedy recovery. Obviously, it's going to take some time with the rehabilitation and stuff like that. But on behalf of Mike and myself, and of course the show and our artists, we definitely will keep him in our thoughts and prayers and stuff as it relates to Tiger getting back healthy and getting back into the thick of things. But Mike, going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll jump into the latest NFL news. Look, we know, going to talk Chiefs, going to talk Cowboys, Texans, J.J. Watt, all that, so much more. Keep it locked in. You're listening to The Ship right here on Fox Sports Radio, KOKC 106.7 FM. Got you ready, big guy?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, welcome back to The Ship here on Fox Sports Radio, KOKC 106.7 FM. Darren Smith, Michael Coleman. Mike, it was announced this week that Mitchell Schwartz, a right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, was going to went under the knife to have back surgery done. They're expecting a full recovery. The time and how long it's going to take for him to heal up. I guess if he's coming back in 100%, he should be at full strength by the time training camp starts this August. The Chiefs will more than likely be without Eric Fisher for most of the year, if not, if not, going into the playoffs or whatever. So I wouldn't expect them to expect Eric Fisher back anytime soon. But that being the case, look, we are fast approaching the start of free agency next month, start of the new calendar year for the NFL. The salary cap, it has. It's going to be between 180, 185, probably on the lower end of the 180. You're looking at players who are potentially going to be free agents, of players that have already been released, such as J.J. Watt, players that are announced as going to be free agents because their teams haven't picked up the contracts, such as Von Miller. What are you looking at this offseason and some of the potential moves that can be made? Obviously, Russell Wilson in Seattle, it was announced on Thursday that his agent said he's fine in Seattle, but there are four teams that he would be willing to be traded to, if things can't be worked out. And of course, your quarterback situation down there in Dallas with Dak Prescott. There are reports from our guy Clarence Hill that that could potentially sign a 3-year deal for $123 million. Now, I'm interested to know how much truth is to that, because I still think that Jones is either going to tag him or he's going to go in a different direction. Then, of course, Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson met with David Culley on Friday and reiterated, his stance that he does not plan on playing for the Houston Texans this fall. So, all that being said, Mike, I mean, you can touch on what you want to touch on first, but I put a lot out there for you.
Well, Russell Wilson is on the "I'm disappointed in Seattle" tour. Uh, the first time I heard about it was when he was on Dan Patrick, which I think was the first time it came out, and then it's kind of snowballed. Then you start hearing, like I heard recently, I guess he stormed out of an offensive meeting with Pete Carroll during the regular season. But he made some valid points. When you get hit like he's been getting hit, the most I think he's been hit the most than any quarterback in NFL history. I mean, if Andrew Luck had stuck around, Andrew might have caught up with him. You know, but he wants to have input on the offense. That's I don't think that's too much to ask for. I mean, if you're going to rely on him, I think he's like 75% of their offense. Um, he should be allowed that. Now I know he has a no trade deal, but he says just in case you don't want to trade me, these are my wishful destinations. It was Dallas, it was Las Vegas, it was who are the other two? Um, um, Chicago was one. I'm surprised at cold weather, but he's from Wisconsin, so he's used to that. So there's that. Then you got Deshaun Watson, who can't exit any place to save his life. He all these quarterbacks about leaving, like well, I'm trying to leave too. And he kind of got this whole ball rolling. Um, I think I think he is going to be leaving, though. I don't think he's going to be there. I think as long as you say we're not moving anybody, that's what the Texans are saying. He's not up. He's not up for a trade or anything. Somebody's going to make a price. So I think what they're doing, I think suddenly they're trying to raise the price tag of what they could possibly get for him because they have no first round pick. You
They don't
know,
have a first, second round pick for this year or next year,
hey,
which is interesting because it's like one, you can't get anything past 2023. So and the other thing is, you know, if you don't trade them and you don't trade them before the draft, you're really going to be shooting yourself in the foot, Mike, because the way that he is, and especially with the tweet that he sent out on Thursday, where he says loyalty means everything to him.
yes,
I take him. Look, I take that to mean that he is willing to sit out, and if push going to shove retire, because I think Deshaun is a man of principle, which means he has no problem giving back $21 million for him to one, not only feel safe, but just have peace of mind, and the sheer fact that you're trying to have that quote unquote slave mentality where no, we're not going to trade you at all costs when we know what the end result is going to be. I mean, you can say what you're going to say, but he's not going to play for you. So, I mean, you can find him all you want. He'll just retire, and and maybe take you to court and get out of the contract or what have you. Because if he returns the money, then what do you have? So, I mean, I just don't. I don't see a scenario where Houston wins. And Sterling and I talked about it on the show this week, and he was like, "Well, you'd be stupid if you're the Texans." I'm like, no, because because he's like, well, their cap hit was 21 million. I'm like, okay, you're paying 21 million. The other team would be responsible for 10 million, but they pick up his contract and the team, whether, and let's just say for the sake of argument, they were to trade with the Carolina Panthers, you could get Christian McCaffrey, Teddy Bridgewater, and 3 first round draft picks for Deshaun Watson. I know you just hired a general manager, but that general manager should be fired if that, if that type of deal comes across and you don't take it because, yeah, you might be restarting your franchise over, but you have a lot of picks to go along with it where you could do that. I mean, because right now you're in salary cap hell. And you also in draft cap hell. So again, if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at Andrew Luck. I'm looking at Russell Wilson. He's been hit a lot as well, but behind that offensive line. So it's like, yeah, look, you damned if you do, you might be damned if you
Well,
do, damned if you don't, but you got to get out of there.
the thing is, I think the folks who are running the Texans, they're in over their head.
Yeah,
The NFL is a whole different beast when it comes to running it. And that's where, I know we pick on Jerry Jones a lot and whatnot. And I remember the criticism he got when he first took over the Cowboys, which was 32 years ago on Thursday, by the way, when he came in and fired Coach Tom Landry. They just looked at him as an Arkansas Wildcatter who knew nothing. But Jerry, I'll never forget, he says, I want to take care of the jocks and the socks. And he threw himself into it. And within 3 years, he was on a roll, a Super Bowl roll, 3 out of 4 years. And he kind of laid down the mandate for how to run an NFL franchise, i.e., when the NFL made Coca-Cola their drink of the league, Jerry turned around and made Pepsi the drink of Texas Stadium. And said, well, wait a minute, you can't do this. Wait a minute. That's a drink of the league. This is a drink of my stadium. And you can do the same thing. And then a light bulb came on. So he showed them how to make money. So when I say Houston uh, guys who are running it are in over their heads, they're not being creative. They're not contributing anything. They just want to be in the club for the sake of being in the club.
right,
Otherwise, you wouldn't have given the green light to get rid of a D Hopkins. Why would you do that? And if you're going to get rid of D Hopkins and you got rid of him for a bag of peanuts, then you need to have a plan B. How do we accommodate Deshaun Watson? How is this going to affect him if we dump DeAndre? And I think they kind of, I think they kind of like they took a shortcut. They
right.
took a shortcut. They got Steele and where's he at now? And then they brought in what's the guy number 87 for Denver, and he wound up going to Houston, and then he had a good game against him. Oh shoot, I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah,
Demetrius or something like that. But they were just stopgap
Demetrius
measures.
Thomas, I think, or something like that. Yeah,
They weren't long-term developments for Deshaun Watson. And that's like with the Chiefs. If you got the guy, now you need to invest in offensive linemen and offensive lineman depth to protect the guy. If you're gonna put your money in that one guy and be your franchise at that position, especially, you need to build a wall around these people and protect them. And Chiefs are in good shape in that respect. They could improve themselves with that lot. But with the Texans, it's across the board. It's across the board. I mean, JJ Watt said I'm out of here. He loves Houston. I got to go because y'all not doing it right.
and look, and
Right there.
yeah, and it's kind of unfair because
He left 3 weeks before JJ Watt left. And then they fired they had a young lady there who was really a big PR person for them. She was their Ted. For those of you who don't know who Ted is, we're talking about Ted, who the PR guy for the Chiefs. She won awards left and right. They got rid of her. They got rid of the strength coach. So it's like, why are you cleaning house when there's no reason to clean house? And that's what Deshaun Watson is seeing, and that's why he wants out.
Yeah, and of course, she ended up getting a job. I think now she's a communication director down in Jacksonville. I think Urban Meyer brought her in down there. So,
So he did.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, kudos to her. But but to again, I don't even like the appearance. I know we mentioned J.J. Watt is that he asked for his release. Now maybe it's because you probably couldn't get anything for him, but the fact that he asked for his release and you let him go, with no strings attached is it's hard to swallow as well because again, just the appearance of you. Here's J.J. Watt, you know, NFL Man of the Year type player. If he wasn't NFL Man of the Year already, and then Deshaun Watson, everything that he's done everything by the book. He asked for a trade. You want to try to break him. Like, no, you're not going to trade him. J.J. Watt asked for a trade or asked to be released. You let him go with no, ifs, ands, and buts, and gave him a party on the way out. So, I mean, a lot
And
of that
you know what?
is
And trust me, his third year out of the league, he'll be welcomed back in their ring of honor.
exactly, yeah. So I mean, so much, man. So much, man, as it relates to Deshaun Watson. We'll obviously talk more and more and more about that as the off season progresses. But Mike, we're gonna take a quick timeout. We come back. We'll look at I want to know about this Dak Prescott situation and see what's going on with him, and then of course we'll talk a little bit more football and NBA. Keep it locked into the ship right here on Fox Sports Radio, KLKC 106.7 FM. Let's see here. Are you ready, Mike?
Yep.
All right. All right, welcome back to the ship here on Fox Sports Radio, KLKC 106.7 FM. Darren Smith, Michael Coleman here with you this weekend. And Mike, I try to tell the audience, I do like to talk more than just Chiefs, Royals, KU. You gotta let folks know how versatile you are from time to time. And so thinking of the situation I mentioned in the last segment about Dak Prescott, what are the reports down there? I think again, like Clarence Hill talked about, Prescott maybe he signed a 3-year deal, $123 million. What is the word down there? Will Jerry Jones franchise tag him again? Will he do that to try to quote unquote work on a long term deal, and then when July 15 comes, say, oh well, we tried at the last minute and couldn't come up with anything, and I mean, so what's going to happen with the situation? Is this going to be a situation that we saw play out last year, and the same thing happens again this year?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Dak he'll get tagged. He'll make the 37 million or whatever, and because you're going to be tagged twice, right? Is that the way it works?
Correct.
So this will be the last time he'll be tagged by the Cowboys. This will be the last year we see him playing in the Cowboys uniform because he's going to pick up where he left off last year in terms of betting on myself and let the chips fall where they may. Now, to me, it looks more fortuitous for him now. Granted, he's coming off an injury, but he's young enough that I think he'll overcome that. But seeing these quarterback moves or potential moves during this offseason, I think is going to benefit him next season when he's on the market. Because if he has a ball out season next year, um, his price will go higher, and there'll be some comparing of what the other quarterbacks who, yeah, maybe they're just a tad bit better than him in terms of what's elite and what's not elite. But I think he'll be in a position to call the price that he wants. You know, I just for some reason I think San Francisco is going to be a landing spot for him. You know, if not now, maybe next year or after this season, the 22 season. Um, yeah, I think somebody even suggested swapping quarterback for the Texans. Well, the same reason why Deshaun wants out, it could be the same reason why nobody wants to go there playing that position. So you can forget that. But I think he'll go along with the tag and he'll move on, and I think he'll be in good shape. He may make it to the Super Bowl before the Cowboys do.
But Mike, here's a question that I posed earlier this week on my other show. If you're Dak Prescott, you saw how last year played out. one, you wasn't a good team in those 6 games that you played in before you got injured, and then of course you got injured and was out for the rest of the year. He could have been in a situation where he found himself not ever being able to play again. Do you want to go into another year? You know, and of course there were reports that Dak Prescott came in at the very end to try to get a long term deal, but timing ran out, and then there was talks that he and Todd Francis had separated ways. As the year progressed. But if you're Dak Prescott, do you really want to take the chance of not getting long term commitment? Look, you can get the 1 year deal like you did last year, 37 million. But if you get hurt again, now you've got an injury history where teams aren't going to want to pay you that type of money because they won't know if you can stay healthy or not. So why, if you're Dak Prescott, knowing how the year played out, because trust me, you were crying, boo-hooing when they were when they were taking you off the field because you knew that any chance of a possible long term deal might have you know you know might have played itself out. But so I'm curious, your thoughts on Dak not getting or not maybe trying to sign a long term deal.
Well, you're gonna take a chance. Hey, look how young he is. Um, Philip Rivers, he's an up and down kind of guy and was still able to command what he wanted and took advantage of it and got in, did his thing with Indianapolis and said, I'm calling it a career, and he's out the way.
Yeah, but
I
that's 16 years versus 5. So
well, okay, that's my point. Look how young Dak is. See, Dak can't be afraid of getting hurt again. They don't athletes don't ever think about that. Like, hey, I got hurt then. That's my mulligan. I'm moving forward. I like his bravado on rolling the dice. Let's give this thing a shot. I think it works out for him.
if Jerry Jones does not sign him to a long term deal and franchise tags him, and then and then we're in this situation again, how will fans react to Jerry Jones? And because knowing, like you said, if he's tagged, it's going to be Dak's last year in Dallas.
Jerry's got thick skin. Jerry likes this. He loves this kind of attention. He don't care at all. Now they're going to either they got the number 10 pick in the draft, which I think by the time they come around, those other quarterbacks that folks are coveting are going to be gone. Now if Jerry moves up, and that's a telltale sign right there. And if they move up, they're going to go for a quarterback. That's what they're going to go after, and that's going to be the writing on the wall. It's going to be like Aaron Rodgers being upset with Love coming in, but the animosity there is not as strong as it's going to be between Dak. Because Dak's going to play lights out to prove himself on the market.
Okay, but now the flip side of that, though, if you're Jerry Jones, I mean, you read the reports, obviously, what Adam Schefter has said on Twitter. One of the 4 teams that Dak, that Russell Wilson will be willing to play for, traded to: Dallas Cowboys, Chicago Bears, the New Orleans Saints, and I forgot who the other team was.
Raiders and
Raiders. Yeah, so I mean, if you're Jerry Jones, yeah, I mean, would you make? I mean, because and see, and he obviously has to be delicate because if you trade for Russell Wilson, you're already saying, well, Dak, I mean, one, you're lying because you said that he was your quarterback, and now you're going after this guy,
who is Dak's lone playoff win against?
Seattle Seahawks.
And Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So so Jerry can do that if he wants. You let him go. He beat him years ago in the playoffs. But a lot of the fans want Dak to get paid.
Well, look, I mean, Dallas Cowboy greats, Emmett Smith and Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman. I mean, it's,
Right.
okay, so I know we talked about this over and over again, but why is Jerry Jones not willing to pay Dak Prescott, but he's willing to really overpay everyone else that has played for him?
That's the $1 million question. He paid Zeke, and Zeke ain't been Zeke since he got that money. He took care of offense or the linebackers, Jalen Smith. Took care of Tony Romo when Romo hadn't even sniffed Well, he had a playoff run, I guess, but it wasn't because you know what the thing about Tony Romo is they like Tony. Tony, I mean, the more Tony gets removed from having played in the NFL, the more closer to the Hall of Fame in Canton people think he should be.
Yeah, I don't know about that part now.
No, I'm saying that's what they feel. They're delusional. That's what they
You're right
are.
about that.
But Tony Romo, he's got that. He's whatever that is. He's got that. I mean, I don't want to say his name, but it's like the 45, number 45 when he's president. He's got that effect on people. Tony does, but Tony does in a good way. In a good way, and he's has the success he's had in the booth. Trust me, in 3 years he'll be coaching the Cowboys.
Mike, look, I'm all for hot takes, but he's not. He's not coming out. One, he's getting paid too much money. He's getting paid really NFL quarterback money to call games throughout the season. And Jerry Jones might love him, but he don't love that much.
And Jim Nance got his nose bent up because they're like, wait, but this is my industry. You're making more than me, so point taken.
Yeah, and trust me, Jerry Jones might he might love him. He don't love him that much to pay him that kind of money, Mike. And so, I guess finally, looking at this situation, is he still represented by Todd? I know he's represented by CAA, but does Dak Prescott have a different
It's
agent now?
different age. I can't French. Somebody France or French.
Todd France, it's not.
Yeah, that's his agent.
Okay, okay. I thought they had a separation last year, so.
See, I think I heard his name come up, and I thought, okay, I'm like, I thought they were apart. So, um, let's look on that. So I'll put a question mark by that, and I'll check that out.
Okay, because look, I mean, obviously, we think about as we talk to start to show off what's going on in Texas. He Matthew McConaughey, I think last week,
Yeah,
fed thousands of people or whatever last week, in the Dallas area. So I mean, it's just a situation where you know you don't really have to like quote unquote like Dak Prescott what he does. On the field, I do think the last couple of years he's kind of padded his stats because the team was far behind, and then
right.
you kind of you throw from his 5,000 yards, but a lot of those are empty calories because your team was so far behind lots of times that that you're trying to bring them back into the ball game. So, all that being said, though, Mike, I think he's appealing to the community down there. You don't hear anything bad on or off the
And you
field.
won't.
Yeah, except for the initial COVID party stuff, I don't think you really had, you've had an incident with them. So, but look, so much we could talk about as it relates to that. But Mike, let's take a quick time out.
Right?
You're listening to the Ship here on Fox Sports Radio, KOKC 106.7 FM, 1540 AM.
Let me call my wife for a minute. Hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, babe. Yeah, we were in the middle of doing a radio thing. Yeah. Oh, I will. And I'm gonna make some cornbread when I get home with it to go with it. Okay. All right, baby. I'll be home about 20 minutes. All right. Bye. All right.
All right, let's close this thing out. I have 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back to the Ship here on Fox Sports Radio, KLKC 106.7 FM, 1540 AM. Mike, any big plans for the weekend?
Well, they're doing a lot of catching up for our high school area playoff teams in basketball because of the storm. And so we have some games on Saturday as we head into the March Madness high school style. And same thing with the community colleges and whatnot. So just a basketball round this coming up weekend. And that's what we'll be doing. And doing a story. Of course, every night this week I'm doing something with Tiger with a local angle, a local perspective with a particular golf pro and his impact that he's had on at the local level. And Matt's his name, and he has some good stuff to say that I'll be, playing out the rest of the week and talking about University of Texas at Tyler. They're having a nice little sports spring season. I mean, the basketball team has won 6 in a row, and which has never happened before, and they beat a top 25 team in their division. And so things are looking up here. And JUCO ball football, they began practice 2 days ago, and Tyler Junior College, their first game is March 27th. So it's going to be Sports Central around here this spring.
Yeah, and then in case obviously, we haven't forgotten, Kansas is hosting Baylor,
Ooh,
this weekend, Saturday at
I
7 o'clock.
lost Texas the other day.
Yeah, so of course, so that's going to be obviously the big game this weekend in the Big 12, Kansas and Baylor over here at Allen Fieldhouse. But actually, look, kind of sticking with the NFL just a little bit, or football. Deion Sanders, prime time. Got his first win head college football coach. Jack State he won in his debut for Jackson State 53-0. Of course, it was kind of mired post game with his belongings being stolen, somehow recovered, and according to the
That's twice
communication
that.
department, it was yeah. He had his boombox stolen, and then this. So, if you want Dion to leave, keep doing what you're doing, which is going to be a bad stain on Jackson State. But what were your thoughts on his debut? Of course, Troy Aikman stopped by and watched the game and stuff. But what was your thought on Deion Sanders, Jackson State? I know it's
And that,
spring football, so
that was a classy move by Troy Aikman. Because I've always liked Troy Aikman. But when he played, I was able to cover him, and he was so stoic. He didn't say much. That's why I was surprised that he was in the booth doing games. Like he don't even talk, but obviously he's good at what he does. No, I think about Troy. He definitely embraces that era of the Cowboys football team, and with the fellas and Dion and stuff like that. And I could see him, in supporting them. I remember when Michael was in his mess, his hot water. Who went to that courtroom every day? None other than Troy Aikman. So he's going to always support his guys. I thought it was a great touch of class that he would show up and take part and watch Dion do what he's done and whatnot. And he made some good, and I used some of the sound. He's like, listen, Dion's done a lot for this program already. So that was cool. Um, Dion, he's got like several Power Five, maybe I think seven, maybe five Power Five transfers. He has both of his sons, who are on the team as well. So, I mean, if you're Deion Sanders, you recruit in your sleep, because you're Deion Sanders, and when you're sitting in that living room talking to that 18-year-old kid, Dad is waiting in line to get the autograph. You know, I watched him before you was born, boy. So you better go to that school. So
right.
when Deion walks in the front door already with credentials. And none of it's negative. None of it's negative. Yeah, he poured water on Carver or whatever his name is back in the day. But he didn't go to jail for it because it wasn't a crime. So, he's in the commercials and whatnot. I mean, I bet you several times when he's been in that house recruiting that kid, the Subway commercial came on TV a lot of times. Deion just probably just shut up and crossed his arms. So I think it's great that he's there. I hope it does. HBCU programs a lot of good with the image and with the ability to reach other folks. I like what Stephen A. and them are doing. They've been doing it for a few years now. Their little tour of the HBCUs.
Right.
So it's kind of like our good friend Bob Kendrick with the Negro League Baseball Museum. I mean, black is in, and that's not a bad thing at all. Let's embrace that and take it for what it's worth.
Now you know who should be feeling bad? Florida State, because he interviewed for the job,
Yep.
and he thought he knocked it out the ballpark, and yet one of your most famous alumni, who is in the Hall of Fame down there, whose name is somewhere. I mean, and you don't even give him because one, he would help with your recruiting because Dion said himself that he already had things lined up. Saying for him, and then of course one, he'd have been paid handsomely down there, and then two, he would have had the best of the best when it came to coaches and stuff down there as well that would have been paid handsomely. I mean, Dion would have turned that program around and recruiting. Oh gosh, it would have look. One is D1, two is Deion Sanders, three. You want to play in the NFL, he's going to be able to get you there. So, yeah, it's beautiful for Jackson State. You obviously hope that the players understand what they have with him being there, but also you want to make sure that you don't have a situation like these where someone is stealing his stuff or whatever. Like it's not worth it. Now Ain't gonna lie, hopefully, well, it shouldn't happen no way. Just don't put your hands on the man's stuff, and you'll be okay. I just want to leave it at that. But Mike, I do want to get into some serious discussion before we get out of here. Ex USA gymnastics coach John Goddard
Yeah.
kills himself after felony charges, including human trafficking and sexual assault. I read this stuff earlier. He died by suicide after he was charged with with over 2 dozen crimes. And the Michigan Attorney General Dana Nassau confirmed that he took his own life Thursday afternoon. Calling a tragic end to a tragic story for everyone involved. Of course, he was involved with with the coach, with the doctor, that physically abused about 20 plus gymnastic members to over the years and stuff like that. And of course, he's accused of actually having sex with the 16-year-old as well. So I don't know if you got a chance to talk about it this week, but your thoughts on this, because it's it's disgusting, but it you know, I mean it seems as though that the victims may not get the justice that they were hoping for.
Well, just another person full of irresponsibility gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't wish negativity on anybody, but sometimes those who are involved and stuff like that, they know what's best for them to happen. If that's what that person chose to do, you know. I mean, I'm still sick to something that Jerry Sandusky still gets a pension from Penn State. I mean, how wrong is that? I mean, come on, man. So, there's no place for that. I know the young gymnast, the young Biles. Um, I don't know if he ever coached her, but she was in a similar situation. Not her, but I think some of her
Mm.
teammates, and she has spoken out against it. So, there's just so much stuff going on out there that we don't even know, man. I mean, that's really really bad deal. So, you know, kudos to law enforcement advocates who try to stamp out that kind of stuff because Super Bowl Sunday is one of the biggest human trafficking days ever, which I just learned that a long time ago. It was like, wow, if we know this, why aren't we stopping that? So, um, these guys who are imposters, they get around these young athletes. Like what's his name? The Ryan guy, the Ohio State wrestling coach, or he was a wrestling coach. Jim, I
Yeah.
don't know, not Jim Ryan, that's the runner, but you know who I'm talking about. And I think it's poetic justice that George Clooney is doing a docu series on that guy, not on him per se, but the incident. But he's
No,
gonna
no,
get.
no, no. I think it is on him.
Is it on him?
Yeah, it is on
Okay.
him.
Okay.
Because
So
I remember
good.
reading it this week.
Shed a light, because a lot of these folks who are screaming law and order are the ones who are the least law and order kind of people, and I'm not. It's not political at all. It's about what's decent and what's right, because we tend to turn away and ignore signs that are out there for us to recognize for fear of interfering or fear of being wrong. Nothing wrong being wrong. There's nothing, I want to say wrong twice. There's nothing bad about being wrong because you were suspicious about something. How often are young people pulled over and the people doing the pulling over are wrong? They're unabashed about it. So we need to have that kind of mentality when it comes. You see something's not going on. You need to check it out. And if you make a mistake, hey, my bad. But you feel a whole lot better. What they tell you at the airport? If you see something, say
Say
something.
something. Yep. Mike, before we get out of here, last thing, Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn guard Kyrie Irving, is adamant that Kobe needs to be the new NBA logo. Obviously, Jerry West, kind of co-signs with it. Doesn't have a problem with that. Your thoughts on that? We got about a minute or so left, because if it's not Jordan, it shouldn't be changed.
Well, it's always been Jordan being a likely one for it to be, but I don't know. It's not really a bad idea if you do it, if it's presented right. I mean, if you do it as a memorial to Kobe Bryant, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great gesture. I don't think Jordan would have an issue with that, at all. So, but I think what hurts it is Kyrie Irving suggesting it.
Exactly.
It's Kyrie Irving. If it was David Robinson, the great center for the Spurs, as a former player, yeah, you might be onto something. But in this case, it's the messenger and not the message.
Yeah, and again, I don't even know what Kobe's signature quote unquote move is. I mean, obviously you look at the jump man, Michael Jordan, and even if it's not that, I mean, you do Jordan fadeaway. I mean, it's something that, because Jordan doesn't have an award named after him, and he's considered a goat, but there's nothing that that symbolizes Michael Jordan in the NBA. So. All that being said, Mike, we can further that discussion next week, whatever, if there's anything from it. But want to thank you so very much for joining us and tuning in this week. We'll be back again next week with another edition of The Ship. For Michael Coleman, I'm Darren Smith. This is The Ship with Darren Smith here on Fox Sports Radio, KLKC 106.7 FM, 1540 AM,